Welcome to Texas Honda Channel. Hope everyone's having a blessed day. If you're new here, definitely consider subscribing. So in this video, we're going to be getting the RSX ready for the Supercharger. There's a few things that need done. We've got some parts over here that we have to install. We'll go over that in just a moment. Now the RSX did recently just have the fuel pump crap out. I'm going to get in and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to start it. You notice how whenever I give it gas, it would start to die. There is definitely a fuel issue. The fuel pressure is actually a little bit low. So I ended up getting a brand new fuel pump assembly. I will leave a link in the description for this one. It is a very nice quality. This will get it going again. I'd like to tear it apart and put the new Walbro in, but I don't have a new Walbro yet, so I just need to get it going again. I'll probably have to take this back out to swap the Walbro in, but it's not a big deal. This will work just fine for what we have. Now this setup right here, these are 1000cc injectors on a returnless system, so this can work on the factory system. But to get the most power out of this setup, we need to go return style, so that will be coming in the future. But for the time being, it will be like this, but we will address that in the future. So moving on to the spark plugs, we got the BKR 9E IX11, or part number 2669 for anyone wondering. These were in my TL, my supercharged TL. I had these in my supercharged Honda Pilot. I had these in my 30 pounds of boost D series. These plugs are an all-around Honda plug. I'm telling you, these things work great. Now, I don't know if they fit every single Honda engine, but they are a 9 on the heat rating, so they're cold plugs. You do have to gap them according to your setup, whether you're turboed or supercharged. But these are my favorite go-to plugs right here. And I've never had issues on any of those builds not making power. So if you want a good iridium plug, they're not as cheap, but they work well. I think they were like $12 or $13 per plug, but worth every penny. But yeah, we got AMSOIL from Watson Synthetic. Huge shout out to Watson Synthetic for providing the oil for my builds. Greatly appreciate you. If you guys want to get some stuff, their information will be in the description. I have a Wix XP filter. They work really well. Everyone will have their preference on filter. K&N works pretty good. The AMSOIL filter works good. These work really, really well, especially for high performance setups. So you can make your own personal choice on what you want to run. We've got the power steering bypass kit right here. I will also leave a link in the description for. This is awesome. So basically I have to remove the power steering to run the supercharger because that's right where the snout will be. So this has to go, even though it was just replaced, has a brand new line and everything. So this will go in its place back there. It'll basically just screw in one side, screw in the other side, and boom, power steering is depowered. So it'll be a depowered power steering rack. Make it basically feel like a manual steering rack does on this year. So it'll be pretty cool. Plus it'll clean up the bay a little bit. Speaking of cleaning up the bay, Jack Spania Racing is going to be sending us a plethora of parts to throw into this thing. So huge shout out to Jack Spania. For people who don't know, he's an eBay seller, but he's a trusted one. I've been going to him since before he sponsored me, and now he's going to be sponsoring this build, so it's going to be pretty cool. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming. There will definitely be a video of that. I'm going to unbox and install. It's going to be really awesome. So definitely stay tuned. Check his information out as well in the description if you want a trusted eBay seller, because I know those are hard to come by. He sells a lot of K-Series parts, Honda parts in general, and a few other things. So definitely check him out. Before we get installing all of that, I did want to show you I got the A-Spec style wing for the RSX, and I think it looks a lot better with that wing. I basically just had to drill the factory holes out. There's a little spot, if you open the hatch you can see it. You can just drill those 2 holes on each side out. Make sure to grind it down, put a little paint over it so it don't rust. But yeah, it just bolted right in there and it looks really, really nice all the way through. I definitely still have to paint it, and it was pretty cheap. Now it definitely was a lot cheaper than the A-Spec wing itself. This one was like $80 something versus the A-Spec, which I believe is 200 plus used. But yeah, looks pretty good, and the fitment's pretty nice, and it's a pretty solid wing, so should be good to go. But I'm gonna go ahead and get all this stuff installed, so here we go. Okay, so if you don't have a magnet, you can actually just use one of the coils to pull the spark plugs out. Okay, so I just pulled Champion spark plugs out of this engine. This is for the people who don't know. Hondas and Acuras only like NGK or Denso plugs. This isn't a personal brand recommendation because I like it over so-and-so's brand. This is actually a factory recommendation, and it doesn't matter how much power you're putting into these things, you need to use the appropriate resistor plug for the setup. So, NGK or Denso only. Even if you're getting the cheapest copper spark plug, which are okay plugs, just do that. It's still better than getting Bosch plugs or Autolites or whatever kind of plugs you preferred on your whatever car you had. Hondas and Acuras only like NGK or Denso. Just wanted to give you guys that tip because that is probably one reason this thing's running absolutely terrible. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it on Hondas and Acuras where they will bring the car into the shop, say it runs like crap, I've just done a tune-up, and the first thing I go for is them spark plugs, and almost every single time it ended up being that they used some crappy plug that these do not like. Put new plugs in it and run like new. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these other plugs in and show you how to gap them. Okay, since these are iridium plugs, they're not as easy to gap as normal like copper plugs. You can't just use one of these tools here, but these come out of the box at 0.027. So this is pretty much right where I want it for this particular setup, since it does have decent compression and it'll be going supercharged. We want to make sure there's not going to be detonation. So this is pretty good, but if you were to gap them, you could take something like this and slightly pry it up a little bit. If the gap is too big, you can tap it down. Just be very, very careful with these because it is really easy to screw them up. But since these are all good, I'm going to make sure all of them are within the same spec, and then we'll go put them in. Okay, so moving over here, I was about to do the power steering when I realized I do not have a power steering bypass belt or pulley system, so I cannot do the power steering yet. I'll probably either come out with another video on that or do it the day we supercharge, so that way I can still run and drive and all that stuff because I need my alternator. So that will have to wait. I will probably go ahead and move to the back seat so we can do the fuel pump. It's real easy on this, just like 92 to 95 Civics or 96 to 2000 Civics. Really simple. Just pull the back seat out and we have access to it. After we're done doing that, I'll put the oil in it and we will see how it runs. So we'll go ahead and get to it. Hope you guys are enjoying the video. Okay, typically there's a bolt right here. It's a 10mm bolt that you'll have to undo before these will come out. But I knew I was going to have to do this fuel pump, so I didn't put it back in when I got these from the junkyard, this lower seat here. So we're basically just going to pull it up, pull it out. Okay, now that the seat's out, we're just going to undo the 4 Phillips head screws. Okay, now that we're to this point, we're going to put this over here because it's going to get messy. There's 2 little white clips we're going to squeeze together, and then we're going to pull this fuel line towards the front of the car. You can see, so I'm not sure if you've seen, but no fuel sprayed out of here, so it wasn't pressurized. This fuel pump's definitely bad. So it's a good thing we're doing all this, but this little black ring that's around it can be difficult sometimes. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're hard. I have been able to use a flathead and a hammer to kind of knock it loose. Left is loose, right is tight. So basically just try really hard on these and they should come out So you'll take that black ring off there, and then make sure no debris or anything falls in the tank. Pull this straight out of there. I'm letting it drain. Get it out of here. Now this is a good time to clean around any excess that you spilt, because it will smell like gas for a little while, maybe a few days or something. But just get it all cleaned up, make sure it's all clean. Then we can carefully install the new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all this stuff off. And go ahead and carefully put this in. And then I like to use the OEM one, the factory one, to this tank, as long as it's not cracked or anything, instead of using the other one, because these tend to fit better. So before we can put the line on, we got to put this clip on, make sure it's facing like this. Just like that. And there it is. Now we're going to test it. I'm going to plug this in and listen for the fuel pump. It sounds like a pretty powerful pump. It definitely is working. I could hear that it was pressurizing really nice. So we're just going to go ahead, reassemble all this, and give it a fire and see what happens. Okay, moment of truth. Okay, the float seems to be working pretty good. Here we go. It sounds perfectly fine again. Awesome. So it definitely started right up. Float's working how it should. That was the other thing I wanted to make sure worked. And the throttle response is even better than it was before. So this thing is going to rock and roll now. Okay, moving on to the oil change. Open the oil cap so it can breathe. Okay, you can see it's pretty nasty under here. I will be pressure washing and cleaning everything. And if anyone was wondering what that noise is in the background, those are chimes at my neighbor's house. It is really windy out, so that's what that is. But I'm gonna go ahead and drain the oil and get the filter off and get going. One thing I like to do at this point, it's almost finished draining, is to get a half-empty container of fresh oil and pour it through. If I have any laying around from previous projects, make sure it's not used oil, just fresh oil. Pour it in with this open, and it'll kind of push extra junk out. That's what I like to do with my oil changes. Again, you don't have to do this, but it just does help clear extra junk out of there. As you can see, it was getting dark and then it lightened up, so it definitely did its job. Now, one more thing I like to do is get the magnetic drain pan bolts, so that way it catches any debris and doesn't circulate it through your engine. Because engines do produce metal shavings, even under normal conditions. Okay, now I'm adding the AMS oil. I went ahead and already added oil to the filter. From what this thing's manual says is it takes 4.7 quarts. I'm gonna put 4 quarts in it and see where it's at since I put stuff in the filter, and then go from there. All right, last step, adding the engine treatment from Bestline Racing. This stuff is awesome. I've done videos of the lubricity tester on my other channel showing this stuff outperforming a lot of the other brands out there for engine oil additives. This stuff is awesome. It coats and protects everything. If you guys want to save some money on this, there's a discount code on screen and a discount in the information in the description, so definitely click that, save you some money. I'll check the oil one last time. Perfect. So now we're done with that. Now the last and most obvious test we have to do is take it out, get on it, and see how it sounds and how it feels. Now we've got new plugs, new fuel pump, fresh oil and filter. This thing should be ready to rock and roll, so we're gonna go take it for a spin. So here we go. Okay, I'm gonna do a little test hit. Definitely pulls a lot harder than it did before. That old weak fuel pump and crappy spark plugs definitely were holding this thing back. It's crazy what the simplest little tune-up things can do. Well, there you have it. It definitely runs really well, sounds really good. It's crazy what little tune-up things can do to a vehicle. So now it's basically ready for the supercharger. If God is willing, within the next week or so, this should go in. And I got to get the power steering bypass on, but definitely making progress. Now, if you didn't notice, the accurate emblem on the front and back is actually sent out to a subscriber and a good friend of mine, Joe. He's going to be 3D printing something really cool for this, and I'm absolutely excited. Also, I found this over at Party City. Huge nerd moment, super happy that I found this. It's the Legend of Zelda's Master Sword in the Hylian shield. If you're not familiar with Legend of Zelda, you should definitely familiarize yourself. It is a really fun, cool game, and my kids absolutely love it. Check out my son right here. He's acting like he's Link, you know, looking real cool. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a really cool theme. I'm going on this. I've always loved The Legend of Zelda since I was very little. Back in the early 90s when I was a baby still, I was still playing on old Game Boys with Legend of Zelda, so I am super excited for this. I do wonder though, would you guys rather see Hylian crest like what's right here on the screen, or would you rather see the Sheikah symbol? Definitely let me know what you guys like more. The Sheikah one can be either a gold color glowing or a blue color glowing, or we can even go purple. The theme can change. I'm just trying to get some input on what you guys think would be really cool for this build. But either way, I'm a huge nerd, so it's definitely getting something really cool. We're going to have accents all over the place, but it's not going to be overkill. It's not going to be too over the top. It'll be subtle, clean, and it'll definitely be cool. Maybe even put a switch in there so that I can go out and go to car meets and car shows and stuff like that and have the kids play it while we're sitting there at the car meet. But either way, it's going to be fun. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. There's definitely more to come. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you that have hit that like button, dropped comments, and shared the videos around. You helped the channel grow tremendously. We're definitely making progress, so definitely stay tuned. But I'll see you guys in the next video. And as I like to say, God bless, stay safe, stay awesome.